I am a Bristol resident, but it will come as a huge shock to you that I'm not from here. I'm from North America, and I've been living in the Bristol area for about 5 years. As I said, run my own business. I've worked with Sato, Joy. I've had the pleasure of briefly meeting some of our speakers, and the amazing community in this city is such an asset, and especially when times get tough, which I think inarguably they are right now. It's really wonderful to have this network and this community coming together. So as a brief introduction to Back Her Business, I'm going to go ahead and read off the script because I've had 5 cups of coffee today and I do not want to short circuit and miss anything. So I'll go ahead and give you the elevator spiel and then I'll hand things over to Sato from there. So BSWN is partnering with NatWest's Back Her Business initiative to provide critical support and guidance for Black and Asian women entrepreneurs who've been impacted by COVID-19. BSWN's program for Back Her Business, which aims to be an exciting and accessible business startup program for women, will adopt a multi-format approach to address key obstacles currently facing Black and Asian businesswomen owners. And what we'll do before the panel is I'll go through kind of how and why and the format that we are going to take to approach what really is one of the biggest challenges I think any of us have ever faced. And not just professionally, personally too, especially when we're locked in our homes for 4 months, these things are going to bleed into each other. I saw someone really beautifully say it's not working from home, it's like trying to live at work. So we are taking a multi-pronged and multidisciplinary approach to really trying to provide resources, support, education, kind of everything you need to know to come through this on the other side. Maybe not in one piece, but pieces that fit together at least so that you can move forward. So with that, I'm going to hand over the keys to Sato.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sato Jadi, the Director of Black Southwest Network. Thanks, Bobby, for that introduction. For most people that don't know BSWN, it's a race equality organization based in Bristol, really focused on addressing racial inequality. We do a lot of work with policymakers to effect change. We undertake research and we engage with communities to really give them a platform to connect with policymakers and decision makers. In the last 3 years, as most of you will be aware, BSWN's work, which has been around enterprise development and economic inclusion. We did some research to really understand the needs of Black entrepreneurs, and some of the research really led to identification of those challenges around access to finance, access to networking, access to support. Subsequently, from that research, we've built different programs aimed at mainly community organizations around sustainability, social enterprises, but also with entrepreneurs. And then as we were moving forward with that agenda, COVID hit. And as everybody knows, I think we're very much aware early on, it was not going to be just a health crisis for the community, but it was also going to be an economic crisis. And that's mainly because we are heavily overrepresented in unsecure employment, high risk around businesses. So it was quite clear, and what we did in March was to really understand what is the impact and have that information and data to really understand. And that was to then align with some of the intervention emerging from government and to make sure that for Black-led entrepreneurs, they were able to access some of the support. So what became really clear wasn't really surprising, was very much in line with our previous research around systemic inequality. So access to support, access to some of the programs that were emerging. And we then quickly tried to put things in place. So one of the things that we did was to have a weekly newsletter to really share information early on. but to also create a platform on our website where if you go as a Black-led entrepreneur, there's a lot of information, a lot of resources to really help support and direct, but also crucially to begin to provide support. So in line with that, we're launching today this initiative, Back a Business, and I'm really, really proud to be involved because as a woman, I know the challenges that women face, but most importantly, I know the challenges faced by Black women. So I'm incredibly proud and I'm incredibly excited to be launching this in partnership with NatWest, who have invested some resources to make this happen. I'm delighted to have amazing panelists today, women that I respect. So I really look forward to that conversation and hopefully to engage with you and get you to sign up to the program. But also begin to really understand what are the needs of Black-led businesses and especially female entrepreneurs as we build a community here in Bristol, but also connect with everything else that's happening nationally. So I'm really delighted, really excited with this project. And without further ado, I'll hand back to Bobby, who will be facilitating part of the discussion this evening, but also she'll be leading on the project going forward. So over to you, Bobby.
Man, I love things paneled and chaired by women because we are doing great for time. So thank you so much, Sato. And what I'll say before I start going into kind of the structure of the program, the how and the why, I would love for you guys who are attendees to kind of share with us some of those things that Sato were talking about. What are your needs? What have you been experiencing? Just go ahead and pop that in the chat, because as women of color, as Black women, we are really focused on actually helping you. The goal of this program isn't just to do something for the sake of doing it. The thing that will make this very strong and very effective is really hearing from you. And if there's any way that we can actually offer support or information here, or if one attendee sees something that might be a good resource for another, I really want this to be a nice and open, honest space for you guys where you can really get a lot out of. So do not be shy. I see some names that I recognize in that chat. So say hi, tell us what you're struggling with, tell us what you're looking forward to, and tell us why you're here today, actually. I know I can't make that mandatory, but I would love to know why you not only signed up, but actually got here at 5 o'clock and are watching. So without further ado, I will go ahead. Sorry, Saida, did you say something?
No.
Okay, I will go ahead and talk a little bit about the course. Every business is different and every entrepreneur founder is different. We're all gonna be coming to a business in the best of times with different experiences, different struggles, different strengths. And the point of this course is to help in all those ways, wherever you're coming from, to really meet you where you're at. So as we said, the aim is really to after the shift, after COVID hit and everyone just kind of had to figure out how to make it work, the aim really shifted to providing critical support and guidance for Black and Asian women entrepreneurs, particularly those who have been impacted by COVID-19. Now, that can be in good and bad ways. So I've been impacted by COVID-19, but in my business, actually a pretty positive way just on paper. So there's no shame in thriving during this time, and there's no shame in not thriving during this time, but both tracks really need guidance and support. Like, how do you sustain if you're doing well, and how do you do well if you're not there yet? So we want to go at this, like I said, meeting people where they are. So we have two main tracks, the starter and pivot track. So if you have been trading for 6 months and you have had to either close your brick and mortar, or you relied on Instagram orders and now, oh my gosh, you need a website, but you have been in this and you have an established business, there are going to be some things that you need that someone who has started, so the starter track, maybe they're just kind of starting from a completely different place, don't have that infrastructure in place, don't even know where to start. So we really wanted to honor where you are in the business journey, and do whatever we can to support it. Now, within those tracks, we have a few different ways that we are going to tackle the problem of COVID-19. So the first thing is really going to be making sure that this course is accessible to everyone. So I don't know how many of you have signed up for online classes and, it's delivered in a certain way that just you don't go back or you don't engage. And there's, from our standpoint, not really point of doing this if we don't bring you on the journey with us. So we are going to focus on making sure you can access the materials. They are in a format that works for you so that you can work the program. And we are going to also have a vertical of finance and revenue. Everyone likes to talk about money. It's so fun and comfortable, but we'll get into lots of goodies, business finance, grants, things that, especially as Black women, women of color, can be hard to access, can be hard to feel welcome or respected in spaces that provide you with the information that you need to know, frankly. Anyone who's dealt with an accountant in this country might be able to echo that sentiment. Things like business loans, etc. So that should be a really comprehensive look at finances from every angle, depending on where you are on the journey, and helping you get to that next step. After that, we have understanding market and customers. So that's going to be more traditional marketing, social media marketing, things like branding on a budget. And even if you're in that pivot track, even if you have been doing it, a lot of people still need branding, and a lot of people have been locked inside for 4 months and been like, this is the time. And I agree, because that is my specialty. This is going to focus on things like communication skills, audience segmenting. And it's okay if these terms do not mean a lot to you right now. Especially if you haven't had that traditional guidance and support to really set things up and set a framework up for you and your business that will allow your business to work for you instead of you just kind of getting dragged along. So if there's anything that I say that you're like, what is that? First of all, put it in the chat so that we can save you a Google trip right now. And second of all, don't be scared of not knowing. There's so much power in knowing what you don't know, and being able to embrace that. And I really hope that you guys take the opportunity to say, okay, there's some things in there that I didn't even know I needed to be doing. Like, that's actually really, really exciting. We have a business planning vertical, which is really just a way to, we're doing so many things, right? I only have a dog. I don't have kids. And I feel like I'm exhausted just keeping this pet alive and sane during quarantine. We are not just running our businesses, are we? We're doing things like taking care of loved ones. We are trying to take care of loved ones, even if we can't see them. We're raising our kids, and we're running a business. And for a lot of us, we are also trying to be accountants, marketers, PR people. And when are you resting in that? So we're hoping to share quite a few ways that you can plan your business in order to take out the things that are weighing you down, or to do things in a more efficient way so that you can work, on the business, not necessarily in the business. So things like working through project management systems, identifying essential tasks for you people that, you're opening up now, you have a shop and you're finally able to welcome customers back. That's probably not going to be 100%. So have you pivoted to digital? Do you need to pivot to digital? How can you do that in a way that will not have you up at 4 a.m. pulling your eyelashes out, trying to figure out a WordPress template, we have pitching, the power of mindset, growing or shrinking your team. Some of you may have had to furlough employees. Some of you may have held off but might need to in the future. And really, how do you take care of your team and take care of yourself, and take care of the business? And then the module that I'm personally most excited about and might have bullied the team into having is self-care. Because we cannot do any of this. One of my favorite things to tell people is you have to put your oxygen mask on first. There is no way, in my opinion, to run a successful business if you're running on empty. So things like resilience, navigating obstacles, advocating for yourself, mental health. You know, it's hard to come through a period like this without having, you know, things like depressive states, without necessarily being, you know, depressed, without having setbacks, and how to kind of get back up after them. The setback isn't anything shameful, but how do you get back up and leave that baggage behind? Physical health, you know, if we're doing everything in our power to keep things afloat and hunched over a computer for like 5 hours a day, you know, what is that doing to our spine? What is that doing to our soul? What is that doing to our ability to actually physically navigate such a difficult time? And in that, this is the last little spiel about the program, and then I'll go ahead and start introducing the panelists. We know that everyone does learn differently, and we really do respect that. And we know that our brains need a little bit of stretching. You know, we need to kind of engage with materials in different ways. So the way that we're going to go about delivering all of this information for you is going to be a multi-pronged approach. We will be doing workshops. We will be where there's more interaction, there's more question and answer, there's more doing a thing and bringing that thing into the world. We'll be doing webinars, which are delivering information in a really accessible way, less interaction, but it's to allow you to take in and process the information in a time frame that really works for you. Salons will be more informal comings together where attendees are sharing a lot, and we can really hear each other and support each other and learn from each other. So those will be structured. You will have an expert leading them. You'll be able to ask a lot of questions, but you will also be able to further foster that sense of community. I can't tell you how many similarities, you know, a hair shop owner might have with someone who does landscaping, with someone who has a service-based business, and you would never think to go to those people for advice because they do something very different from you. So these salons will hopefully help us really come together, learn from each other, like, as I said, and realize that our journeys in many ways are very, very connected. And without that kind of community around you, it can be very hard to know that things are temporary, and know that, you know, the bad times won't last forever. And then we'll have one-to-ones. We will have check-ins with attendees, with participants, with an expert that can help you specifically in your journey, in your business, and with your problems. And that will be at regular intervals so that you can track your progress, we can track your progress, and most importantly, we can make changes if something is not working for you, or we can make changes if something's working really well for you and you're just like ready to launch into the next thing. So as I said at the beginning, we're going to be coming at this from all angles, and there is a lot of love and a lot of support that's gone into this, and I know that we can't wait to share it with you, but I hope that you're really excited about the opportunity to come into a space like this and leave the baggage, leave the shame, leave the, oh my gosh, 2020 is just not what I expected, at the door, and look forward to the future with a group of people that just really want you to win at all costs. So with that, and before I run out of breath, yep, Seda?
I just wondered, before you move to the panel discussion, whether you can invite questions, if people have questions around the program.
Yes. Are we doing this in the chat? I see you guys saying hi. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Sona. Blissful. Hi, Jennifer. If you guys can start popping some questions in the chat, I will do my best to answer them or pop them over to one of our amazing panelists who can. Hi, Tasha. Seda, did you see any float by that I can start answering immediately?
There's a question about how many sessions and how long is each one?
So that's going to depend a lot on which track you are in. And we really want to encourage people not to just decide, okay, I only need business and marketing, I'm only going to do those, because this is a holistic approach to everything. So the way things are envisioned right now, our workshops would be probably about 45 minutes to an hour, with about 15 minutes at the end for Q&A. Webinars will be about an hour and a half. You can start and stop them if you want, but we'll give you a time frame in which to complete them. Salons will be informal. They will be about a half an hour of material and learning, and then probably an hour of us coming together, hour and a half of us coming together and speaking with each other. One-to-ones will be about an hour, and that's where you really dig into, you know, what's going on and how you're doing and what we can do. The program as designed through the end of the year with a view to continue, but things look different than what they did when we designed this. Things are going to look different tomorrow. So you should plan, just looking at the schedule, to, you know, you have businesses. You can't be doing this 8 hours a day every day. So you should plan. Saida, if you can jump in, because my tabs are starting to freeze in terms of like, there's about 1 to 2 modules a week of things to kind of be in. And again, not everything's live. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
There's another question. Is it just for those who have been impacted by COVID-19? I can say not necessarily. It is aimed at, it's timely right now because we know a lot of Black female entrepreneurs are perhaps really struggling, but it's not. It is for any female Black entrepreneur. You can sign up. Yeah.
And if you haven't been impacted by COVID-19, can you drop your email in the chat? I'd like to hear how you.
Well, there you go.
We all have, you know, we all have in good ways and bad, and this will have changed how we approach things. So if you're asking that question, it means you're inward looking and thinking about the future. So I would say probably you fit the criteria.
Another question, I think I can answer that. How much will the program cost? It is absolutely free. Yes. And then will all the sessions be online? I leave that to Bobby.
Right now, we are envisioning all of the sessions being online until and unless things drastically change. This is primarily for your safety. And I'd like to think of it as we treat these like in-person meetings. You know, people are going to notice if your seat is empty because we really want you there. But right now, you know, we're adapting everything to be able to be taught online, especially because so much of the pivot kind of has to be to online. But that said, we want to make sure that anyone who is differently abled, so if there are hearing problems, seeing problems, attention problems, and I actually don't want to call these problems, attention just differences in ways to intake information, we want to work with you. So if you have had an issue with online courses, please feel free to reach out and we can tell you what accommodations we are able to make and willing to make, which I would hope would be all of them if it's in our power. So if that is a barrier for you, let us know so that we can have a chat about it.
Next question.
Go ahead.
How long is the course for? I think it's 3 months, but remind me again. Is it 3 months? Super. There are other questions that will be picked up by other panelists, so I'll leave them, but specific to the program, there's another one. Is it just for full-time business owners, or can people with side hustle apply for the program?
Please apply if you have a side hustle. Please apply if you have a side hustle. Please apply if you've been furloughed. Please apply if you have an idea, if you are at the ideation stage and you are very serious about launching it. Do not apply if you had a dream last night and then saw the link to this webinar. But apply if you have an idea that you've been thinking about. My gosh, if you've been thinking about something since 4 months before quarantine or 4 months ago when quarantine hit, go ahead, because we are thinking of you as well and how we're doing this.
Two more questions. So there's one, I think you've answered that. No, you haven't answered that. Is there a minimum age criteria?
Seda, you might have to answer that because I don't want to get in anyone into legal trouble. I would think not.
I think it is mainly, I think, yeah, that's a really good question. I'll come back to you on that question.
Okay.
Is it for only people in Bristol? It's mainly Southwest. So it's not just Bristol, it's Southwest of England. And then let me see if there's another specific question.
Can I still apply if I'm in the preliminary stages of setting up my business? Was that? Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it in terms of directly the program, but there's some other questions around wider support, and I think I can bring that to the panel, and I'm
okay.
About Shania for some of the questions.
I saw what help, support, and financially is there for digital business that want to work with everyone. So just to give you a little bit of insight into that in referring to the course content, I'll give you some kind of like top line title so you can have an idea, especially in that realm of financial support. We will be going into things like business loans, business accounts, grants, business finance, so sales versus revenue, useful tools, accounting software, all of that. And then in terms of like support, gosh, people think it's only people that go to the office for 8 hours a day that come home and need a big hug at the end of the day, and that's just not true. That's why there is this whole self-care vertical in the course, to provide you with that mental support, not just from us, like we can't do it for you, but to give you the resources and tools to know what's available, know what's possible, know what that looks like to put it into action, and then know what to do next. So I hope that answers that question, but please let us know if it doesn't.
And I think you have a final question in the Q&A from Zahra.
Let's see. Do you have it in front of you? Because I'm looking for it and I don't see it.
Yeah, so I'll read out the question. I'm currently don't have or own a business, but planning to set up life coaching business while I'm in the middle of my certified training. Will I get support with guidance to set up my new business, design business plan, as well as support and guidance to start running my business?
There's a whole module on the business model canvas. Yes. The short answer is yes. We are absolutely, that would be a starter track. That would be a way to, the things you can explore are things like business structure, taxes, how to handle revenue, project management, how to kind of visualize your business, everything. Yes.
Also to just add around one element of the program, and that is the partnership with NatWest, is the opportunity for crowdfunding. So anything around the finance, that will be part of the program that you'll be able to crowdfund and support your businesses. But we'll discuss that with Shania, who is here from NatWest, and she'll explain that more.
So Jennifer, I just saw your question come through. I'm in the early preliminary stage and working hard as a person with a disability. So this is why I'm very focused on helping disabled people as a priority. What help is available? So this is why I kind of want you guys to talk to us about what things you might need. We've thought of a lot. But no one is perfect and nobody can think of everything. So in terms of specific accessibility things, we definitely want to accommodate. But I'd really, really just encourage you, if you're comfortable, to reach out and let us know kind of what support you're looking for. And we can share the things that we are going to be doing and the ways that we'll specifically be able to help. I know we're in an open forum, so it might not be the best format to kind of ask and answer those questions, but we are available to be asked and to answer.
Excellent. I think that's the end of Q&A. So
cool.
Back to you, Bobby.
Should I go ahead and introduce the panelists then? Yes? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and introduce you guys. If you can just wave as I'm talking to you, or like do a thumbs up. I know your names are there, but make yourself seen if possible. So I'm going to start with Sharnia Ferdinand. is the Business Inclusion Program Manager at NatWest. With experience spanning personal, business, and commercial banking, this has involved her in supporting businesses to grow, scale, and create personal wealth. We love to hear that. A key part of Sharnia's success has been to host expert educational business events that encourage customers to network and exceed their business expectations. An additional key part of the work that Sharnia led during this time was to support female business owners. In 2017, she was recognized with the RBS Women's Opal Award, snaps, for her contribution to women in business. So that is Sharnia. Sharnia, can you wave and say hi for 2 seconds, and then we'll introduce
Hi.
the panelists?
Hi, everyone.
You're on the next tab for me, so I have to like pan over to see your face. Okay. Next, we have Navina Bartlett. Navina is the founder of Coconut Chili, an ethical startup making award-winning gourmet South Indian meal pots. And now I'm hungry. So Navina lives the ethos of putting purpose before profit and has eschewed the traditional route of scaling a food startup and is selling her meal pots mainly online directly to office-based customers. She's working towards growing Coconut Chili as a B Corp, a for-profit business that has a social and or environmental, I should say, outcomes as part of its mission. Navina's true passion is using Coconut Chili to challenge conventional food manufacturing as a vehicle for change in a bid to create sustainable food systems around the world. So Navina, can you?
Hi, Bobby. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Cool. And Izzy Obang is the founding director of FounderVine, leads a training consultancy that provides founders with access to training, mentoring, and funding opportunities. Lost my words there for a second. Since 2018, over 2,000 young people have been skilled by FounderVine programs with do you guys say not 0.3 million raised with 62% female participation. She is an experienced public speaker and has helped people grow at global brands such as Just Eat, Facebook, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Google, Airbnb, and more. Izzy is a non-executive director for Capital Enterprise and has been featured in the BBC, The Telegraph, The Times, TEDx, and in 2019 was named by Tech Nation as one of the 50 most influential Black voices in UK tech. Snaps again. Navina, I actually had snaps for you and I didn't do them, but please don't think please don't think the absence was intentional. She now divides her time between the UK and West Africa, delivering startup and scale-up acceleration programs designed to transform the digital innovation ecosystem.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for the intro.
Absolutely. And now, under pain of probably death for doing this, I'm going to introduce Joy. Who has until now been hiding behind her computer, but Joy is a force in Bristol, a force in tech, a force in making marketing, digital tech inclusive, really intentionally. I am very lucky to count her as a friend. Joy runs the Social Detail. She is an amazing resource for learning, for doing, for actioning, and for advocating for Black people and Black women specifically in tech. Joy does not sleep enough because she's doing so much work in her business and in the community to really, really make a change. So if Joy can make herself seen and heard.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Sorry, I was doing techie stuff. That's why I was off camera.
When are you not? So I will wish you guys a wonderful panel discussion. I'll be checking in on it later this evening. Really glad that you guys were here. Really thankful that you guys took your time and brought your energy to learning more about what we're doing and specifically to this conversation. I'll go ahead and let Joy frame it for you, but you will learn a lot from our amazing panelists. And I hope you come away from this with a few key takeaways, but also a lot of hope and a lot of desire to take action. So with that.
See you soon, Bobby. Great. So the theme for what we're going to be talking about is about pivoting and growing the businesses through crisis. But as just looking at some of the questions and looking at like different places, I'm assuming where people are in their business, you can definitely share in the chat. I actually want to ask a full-on disclaimer, first of all. If I mess up your name, please correct me. It's a habit I have that I'm trying to fix, but I'm very bad at reading names. I'm actually dyslexic. But Navir, I would love to know how you even started your business and what was the initial, let's say top 3 things that you said was either helpful in support or 3 things you couldn't have done without when you got started.
Background to before I started my business, I think, is important as well. My career was previously in advertising and marketing. So that's where my skill set was. And I did several years learning the trade, learning all the skill sets, working with clients, managing various people in agencies. So that was really, really powerful when I got to the point of, so I had a career in London for a long time. And then 12 years ago now, I moved to Bristol, which is a fabulously foodie city. And that's when my sort of passion for food became ignited. And I set up a small catering company, Coconut Chili. And I was basically just sort of cooking for friends and family and teaching people how to cook. And then it was around the time, sort of 2011 or so, where the street food scene started to gain momentum in sort of Western parts of the world. So predominantly it had always been in, you know, the Far East and India, and I had a lot of experience in that. But really, I used my marketing skills to create an umbrella brand called the Street Food Collective. So I knew at that time that my business was essentially just a micro business, and it would be very expensive to be able to just market that to my audience. So we basically partnered up with several different food traders, and then we all used to work together. And I managed to sort of partner up with landowners, Bristol City Council, quite high profile people within the city, and arrange for trading for our traders at the time. And we did sort of big advertising campaigns as well.
After my own heart. That was a lot, like just the networking side of everything you did to even get started and working with the council. So what was the 3 things once you got that network built and you were able to set up those connections? What were the 3 things that you said were really helpful in that support system?
Social media was just gaining momentum at that time. That was a very, very powerful thing. And Twitter was a time where people were really collaborating. So it was a very different space. And I think actually post-COVID, Twitter has gone back to that. And it's free of charge, and it just takes your time to be able to do that. So that's really important. Another thing was basically my own personal network. So just reaching out to people who I knew as well, and being brave and contacting people who I knew would be interested in what we were doing. And, you know, it's really about sort of having the mindset to be able to go and do that. And sometimes I used to have to, you know, sit down, ground myself, have a cup of tea before I wrote an email or made a phone call. But it was really important to do that.
That's so true. Sometimes I have to rewrite and write an email a couple of times before you can send it.
Exactly.
And Izzy, what is some of the things you see early businesses do that help them to get off the ground, having seen so many go through Foundervine?
Yeah, so networking is a huge part of that, and I'm really glad someone's already mentioned social media, because if you're a little bit introverted like me, then going to networking events and trying to get in people's faces can be really daunting, particularly when you're starting out and you haven't quite crafted your your elevator pitch or your sort of mission very clearly. And so LinkedIn is one of the most invaluable tools I've found, both in terms of building client relationships, partner relationships, and also building a community around you. It of course depends on the nature of your products, and it might be that Instagram and Twitter are much better, but being active on social media as early as possible not waiting until everything is perfect and then launching a product into silence. Start building the community as early as possible. Build people around you who are going to be excited about your business when it finally launches, and that way you have a ready-made community to sell into.
That's so true. And I'm already an advocate. I run a social media agency, so I'm going to rant on about social media, but I will slowly calm myself. And Shania, what is one of the things you'd say that NatWest does or is able to kind of see with small businesses when they're starting out and trying to get their foot off the ground in terms of their networks and reaching out?
Sorry, so I guess not to repeat what everybody said, but one of the things that we've been working on prior to coronavirus, but we'll continue to work on going into the new normal, is that how we connect businesses with each other. So before, when we were able to be in the same room, we started hosting a lot of sort of events and bringing people together, but also bringing in that educational piece. And one of the things that we have is our business builder program. So for businesses that are just starting out, it's digitally focused now. We've pivoted it so that it's digital delivery, and it goes through different modules that people can access so that they can learn different aspects of starting and running a business successfully. But as part of that, they also get to be part of this community of other entrepreneurs that are on the program with NatWest, so that you can also connect with people. And I think, as Izzy and Navina both said, I think one of the most powerful tools that you can have in your arsenal is having other people who understand what you're going through, but also you don't know who they know. So sometimes it's just about having those conversations to make sure that people, when you start having conversations, it sparks something in someone else's mind. It's like, oh, I can connect you with such and such, or such and such can help you with that. That's how, for instance, I've been connected with Sado, with Izzy. So it's really powerful, the amount of people that you can reach just through having those conversations and making sure that you're, as Izzy said, engaging with people who can be excited about your business.
So true. That engaging is key. And to any of you on the panel, we've been going through a time where a lot of things have changed. As Bobby mentioned, COVID has affected business owners in many ways, either good or bad. What have you seen are ways that businesses are pivoting during COVID?
For me, I think it's people have been utilising their digital offerings, or really sort of seeing an increase in where they before maybe they made sales face to face, or they made sales via a physical shop. There's been an increase of sort of foot flow to their digital channels, but also it's about having those, making sure that you're really connecting with your customers still. So even for some businesses that unfortunately had to stop trading, or whether they had to reduce what they were doing, it was making sure that they were keeping in contact with their customers and kind of really checking in on what it is their customers need from them, and cultivating that kind of loyal base when they were able to start again, that they had the customer base there ready, but also had those channels open so that they could support each other as well.
And Izzy, have you seen any things that have been changing with some of the businesses going through Foundervine?
Yeah, I think Shania raised a really good point around pivoting in terms of being more comfortable with digital models. And, you know, for some of us who already had a kind of blended offer where, you know, maybe you sell some products online and some face-to-face, that might be easier. But we found that there are organizations who are genuinely struggling if the business is predominantly offline and doesn't pivot online easily. And then you're in a kind of situation in which you neither have the capacity to upskill yourselves in digital skills, as well as the kind of understanding of how the business model changes. And that's why programs like Back Her Business are so important in providing the expertise and the support that founders are going to need to cope with this new normal. Because even when the world kind of goes back to normal, quote unquote, we're still going to be in a situation where customers and consumers just feel a lot more comfortable ordering things online. So I'm really excited to see the innovation that comes from it. Another way that I've seen organizations pivot is in terms of funding. All investors that I've been speaking to have been a lot more cautious in terms of funding. They're cautious because the organizations or individuals that fund them are cautious, and everyone's a little bit cautious, and therefore founders are seeing sort of deals that were in the process of being made collapsing or being postponed, and having to be a lot more creative in terms of how they manage their people. That might mean temporarily laying people off or making use of the furlough scheme. That may mean, as a founder, taking up new skills yourself. And so there's also opportunities there to grow as a founder. And I think the most important thing is realizing where there may be opportunities to engage people differently and change your products and kind of make them a lot more kind of suitable to grow in the current environment. So yeah, I think in terms of funding and in terms of digital models, those are the biggest things we've seen.
Changing and adjusting what they're already doing, but to suit the circumstances.
Exactly.
And Navia, how have you adjusted with COVID, and how has it affected the business?
I have pivoted again. So a little bit of information about the backstory. My business was, because of my marketing background, I decided I wanted to go into creating a product line. So I created all the products, developed the recipes for the range of meal pots that I launched into retail. So I got so far, funding was a major problem for me. I had already taken on personal debt in the form of credit cards to get the business to the size and the structure that I decided to do. But it quickly transpired that being a woman of colour, it was going to be increasingly more difficult to get into those sort of larger investor networks. I actually have a business partner who has a very small minority stake in the business. He is older, he's clearly male, he is also white. And we used to joke about it. He used to, the good with numbers, experienced business person, and I was the enthusiastic young female founder. And we kind of played the game to a certain point, but I wasn't particularly happy about it. People didn't speak directly to me. There were lots of challenges with that, and it was often very, very demoralizing as well. But ultimately, I wasn't able to raise the money to be able to get my business to the next phase where we'd really be able to go into the nationals. So actually, I had already pivoted in 2018. I had a lot of overheads for the business. At that time, we were renting kitchen space in London, and on the unsexy side of the business was the event side of the business. And actually that was ticking over quite nicely. We were starting to do larger events. We were working with really high profile clients like, the Financial Times. We've done work for Sadiq Khan, Mayor of London. And that was going really well. So I thought, okay, why don't I focus on that? It's not as exciting, but actually the customers are really happy. And I used those recipes at the events that we were doing. So actually, the recipes and the dishes were still the same, but I just I couldn't push it into the avenues that I wanted to. And then post-COVID, we pivoted again. All my events were cancelled, and I have just gone back to basics and started running just a delivery operation. And again, the background with the packaging design, with the supply chain, with knowing the margins involved in creating a retail business, I knew that this would work long term now, whereas a lot of restaurants are playing with the digital model, playing with creating product line from scratch or going into a retail space. And I feel that I've done all the learnings and I'm in a very strong position to move the business forward.
And it seems like you've had 3 big points of shifting and changing. Yeah, that's a lot. That's amazing. And I actually really relate to that story, because I was told outright when I was building my agency, oh, you should just hire a white man to be your salesperson. And the person said this to me with the straightest face, and I'm just like, you're joking, right? You can't Like my actual logo for my company is a Black woman. That just wouldn't work.
Exactly.
But yeah, one thing I would say, and I don't know if the panelists would agree, there seems to be a change. I'm trying not to be hopeful or too pessimistic, that being a person of color running a business is starting to have some capital, some backing behind it. Izzy, you're a lot in the funding world. Do you feel that there is something shifting there?
I think you're right. It's far too early to tell whether this is the moment where our country changes. And we have been in the midst of a really difficult time, and a lot of performative solidarity from organisations who wish to appear, one, as if they're moving in the right direction, and two, have a lot of conversations internally about what happens next. And so I don't think we can sensibly say whether this is going to make a change in the next 3 months or so. And there may be some really kind of what do you call it, about things that kind of look good, basically. So events that are run or sponsored in which you have diversity as the focus, fantastic. But the real change we want to see are organisation supply chains becoming more diverse, and more contractors who come from diverse backgrounds being kind of put on the books. We want to see more people who are not just employed at the more junior levels, but at senior management, being kind of coming from diverse communities. We want to see non-executive boards who actually reflect our society, rather than just being made up of retired retired people who don't necessarily represent our society, should I say. And so there's a real C-level change, I think, that needs to take place in order to create people who feel genuinely empowered, feel genuinely supported, and organizations that really genuinely have a commitment towards change. And I don't know how convinced I am yet, but like you, I am not wanting to be too pessimistic, but I'm not also holding my breath.
Yeah, I've just converted it to now any business or person I was interacting with who previously said no, but all of a suddenly wants to work with me, double the price. Navir, have you seen any opportunities come out in this? I don't know how to phrase the atmosphere we have right now, but has it changed the way people are speaking and working with your business?
I think I've always had a really, really loyal customer base. That hasn't changed. Definitely people are voting with their pounds. So, you know, they are actively spending money because Coconut Chili is independent, because I have been around for a long time. And I think that will continue. So I think definitely within the food industry, there's a lot of passion for independent restaurants, food companies, suppliers even, who are producing really, really quite high quality foods. And, you know, people are supporting where they can. And we'll just see what happens over the next few months, because ultimately it's about the money. And, you know, certainly in my industry, there are a lot of overheads. And if people don't have the cash reserves to be able to keep their businesses running, you know, there will be some that fall by the wayside. I think from the customer base and the audience, definitely there's a big appetite.
That's so good to hear. I love it when I hear people are speaking with their money. And Shamir, we have a question I think would be perfect for you, actually. It's around being the only woman of color in a corporate environment, and like any kind of tips to navigate that, especially now during these times.
Oh gosh, it's strange actually, because it happens, but then within a corporate environment you almost build this network of people that look like you. So even though you don't necessarily work directly with them, or they're not on the same team as you, so the majority of your time you may spend probably being the only woman of colour in a particular meeting or a room. For me, it was building my internal network that's really supporting me, so that you can have those conversations, or you can bounce those microaggressions or little things that kind of get to you off of other people that understand and that can give you their advice and their knowledge, especially if those people have more experience than you. One interesting thing though, I guess I'd say, particularly around what's happening now, is prior to this, those types of conversations I would always only have with other, whether it be Black or Asian people, because you understood that they understood your experience and you felt comfortable having those, and you didn't necessarily feel comfortable having those with people who hadn't gone through that. But in the times that we're in at the moment, it's like that it has kind of changed the dynamic, and I feel more comfortable having these conversations with people who don't necessarily understand because they want to understand, but with people who are approaching me in an open and respectful way to understand those experiences. So similarly to what you were saying earlier, while I'm not 100% sure that this means that, yes, okay, next month racial inequality will be solved and everything will be perfect, it is quite heartening that we are able to have those conversations and that it is something that's opening up. But I guess in terms of tips, for me, it's whether that be people who you have an affinity with or people you don't, it's really building those relationships with people who get you, who want to support you, who want to see you thrive, and utilising those when you might be having a down moment or having a moment where you're not necessarily feeling like, okay, I know exactly what I'm doing, or maybe this person, I'm having a problem here. It's having those people that you can talk to and who understand you and who support you. And one of the biggest things that I've learned throughout my short career, because I'm only 12 years old, is just the importance of having sponsors and people who will advocate for you and talk about you when you're not in the room. And I think that works for businesses as well, as whether it's your customer base or other people who are invested in you. It's having those people that will go out and shout about you and get your brand out there further.
Mm-hmm. I can agree more. And I've heard so much mention about networks. I have a mini challenge for all the attendees watching right now. I want everyone to set the little blue bar above in the chat section to all panelists and attendees. And I want you to drop your social media links for your business if you already have one. If you don't have one, drop the link for your LinkedIn. If you don't have your LinkedIn, we will have a conversation later. But yeah, network sounds like it's such an important thing and is helping people in so many aspects, especially as women of color. I think having that network that we can refer to, whether in the corporate world, looking for investment or building product-based businesses, is something that I'm seeing throughout. Any questions, drop them in. We do have one question. Have any of you continued to work a full-time job while also running the business and found the magic solutions to balance everything? Oof. Well, who wants to take that one? Because I fail.
Sorry, no, you go.
I haven't worked full-time, but I've always worked part-time. So I started off working full-time, then I dropped down to part-time, and I've always been running the part-time business. It's never been a full-time thing for me, and actually it looks much bigger than it is. However, each job that we do now is very profitable, so I know which events to go for. But I am a full-time mum, so that takes a lot of time.
3 jobs.
Yeah.
And Shamia?
Oh, sorry, I was going to say, I don't run a business, I do just work full time, and that ever elusive balance seems to be something that affects women more than men in general, because we do tend to have multiple roles, whether that is running a business, raising a family, caring for individuals. But unfortunately, I don't want to be negative, but I don't know if there is such a thing as balance necessarily. But I think that it's kind of prioritizing what's important, but also making sure that we, as individuals, we are well-rounded, so we're not all in one thing. And so I think it's just sometimes it's that case of being able to prioritize what's important at that moment. And sorry, I'm trying to think of the words I'm trying to say. Essentially, just prioritizing really well, but balance isn't necessarily a thing, but we are individuals and we're capable of so much, I think, as women and as people of colour. So it's just something that we can do, and we can do it well.
Yeah, there's so many things. I on my part, when I first started the business, I used to work as a teaching assistant because I would finish the school day at 3 and be able to get to meetings, and I would tell all my clients, you know, I've got a busy day, I'm super booked, I can only do times at like this time. And in their heads they'll be like, oh, she must be, you know, taking over the world. Meanwhile, I'm like running around after little kids. But the balance thing is hard. Bobby wasn't joking when she said that I don't sleep, but that's what coffee's for. Izzy, I know you made a transition going into full-time with Foundervine. How did you find that balance?
Yeah, so it was one of the most stressful things I think I've ever done, starting a business. And so I was working full-time and dropped to 4 days. And just for a bit of context, I worked in management consulting and then quit to work in the less stressful space of higher education whilst I was building the business. What I found that helped balance was finding a complementary role. So I knew that in consulting, running a business just wouldn't align because you have to commit your blood, sweat and tears to roles like that. However, working in a university, I worked as an enterprise manager, building training programs to help students start businesses whilst building a company that helps people start businesses. And so finding a complementary role was key for me when it came to balance, and then dropping down from 4 days and then going full time. One thing I would say, and you know, by no means am I coaching anyone on this because I'm just as bad, but I found that structuring my diary and putting tasks in my diary and making sure that I commit to very specific periods. So it will say something like clear inbox or no meetings here, or that having boundaries allows you to do both, and having boundaries for your employer as well. For those of us who work part-time, you know that feeling of working part-time, but you're basically being asked to do a 5-day week and people not respecting that. So pushing back when your manager asks you to take a meeting on Friday when he knows your working days are Monday to Wednesday, things like that go a long way in terms of helping you find the balance to work on the business while working full time. Don't be afraid to carve out days in which you're working on your business. If that's Thursday to Friday, employer no. Don't feel contractually obliged to go overtime even if the work is really important, unless you see a kind of strategic reason for that. So I think there are ways that as women we can be a lot bolder in terms of protecting our time in a way that, sorry to say, men are a lot better at, that go a long way in terms of helping us balance.
Yep. Having the audacity of a mediocre white man, and I've added more caveats to that, but just being able to be like, nope, it's something I'm practicing and learning every day is so important as business owners on various aspects, and trying to do it because we only have the same 24 hours Beyonce has, so we have to try and figure that out. I would love to know, speaking about that kind of audacity and that gusto that we see people who don't face the microaggressions we face every day as business owners, what kind of tools, we speak about a lot about networking, but what kind of tools have you implemented to help yourself either with a confidence or imposter syndrome when dealing in those scenarios? Who wants to take that one?
Hello. I'm going to admit something. I actually didn't know what a microaggression was until about last year, but I've experienced it from a very young age. And I think just the awareness of knowing it was a thing was both empowering and like really, really frightening at the same time. So I literally, when I heard the word, and it was a Black female friend of mine who told me the word, I just sort of took stock and I thought, oh, this has happened to me a lot. And in my business journey, I didn't realize that many of the setbacks that I'd had were because of my color or because I was a woman. You know, sometimes there's a mix there. But actually not knowing was really powerful, because had I have been aware, I probably wouldn't have gone for, you know, so many things, so many opportunities. And internally, things, you know, I had this internal kind of clock that was saying to me, no, Navina, you can't do it. You're not good enough to do it, you know, and that's where the bravery and the imposter syndrome comes in. But because I didn't realize that it wasn't a level playing field, I just got on and did it anyway. So I think awareness is really, really key, but I think awareness and the ability to turn that into a positivity is really, really important.
I think for me, just thinking about, I guess, audaciousness and feeling an imposter syndrome, I was raised by parents who were always very much drummed into me. You can do anything you want to be. You can be anything you want to be. So I think I had quite a high level of self-confidence until a certain age, and then the world starts to beat it out of you a little bit. But for me, being like, there are moments where I'm feeling on top of the world and you almost feel as if anything will go well. But for those moments when maybe something has affected me and I'm feeling slightly less confident, it's really important for me to have those people around me who are kind of my champions, who when I make maybe a deprecating comment about myself, are like, no, you're amazing, you do this, you do that. But also in those moments when I don't necessarily have those people, or I'm not able to have those people around me that can do that for me in that moment, I'll let you into a little secret. I have what I like to call my theme song, that if I'm having a bit of a rubbish day, I'll play this song, and it just helps make me feel better, because it kind of reinstills in me that, no, you are capable, you are amazing, and you can go out there and get it. And while not everything's going to go 100% your way, going out and just at least asking for it, the worst you can say is no. And just to let you into the secret, that song is All I Do Is Win by DJ Khaled. Just really pumps me up. So get a theme song that helps make you feel better.
Shall I come in?
Yes.
I know it's the panel, but I can cheat. I think that really, really resonates in terms of leading an organization, and getting, what I figured out was, because I'm campaigning and I'm going against the grain and holding people to account, and almost in decision making, really powerful place. It's the worst. Because in that space is where you really see it being played out, because it's an element. I think for quite a long time, I questioned myself significantly, even though, you know, racial inequality exists. You have the data, it is all around you. But when you're in that space, the way people question you, and you really question yourself, because they speak in a different accent, they act in a different way. And almost society makes us believe, for a certain group of people, they've just been allowed. And it took a while to really, I think for me, because I'm in an activist space that was quite healthy, by finding race equality, I almost found myself. I almost found my voice. And it got to a place where now they don't exist, because I just have a mission and I have an agenda. And I just walk in and I just have to say what I want to say. And I can see sometimes people really shooting you, and I don't care. And also understanding, I think also it was really powerful to understand what, Navina, you've talked about, microaggression, and understanding the space that you're in and why things are happening. That knowledge is really powerful, that it's got nothing to do with you. And that is how racism is produced and reproduced, to make you, once you understand that, that's really, really powerful, because it has nothing to do with me, and I can stay on mission to say what I want to say. The problem is you. So being able to almost separate those two and understand what systemic racism looks like, it's the most powerful thing. So I don't have to internalize. I don't have to process all of those things. I can see them coming. I can see the people performing. It's all around you. So the key is really educating yourself around systemic racism and understanding. And then you kind of figure out it's not you, because most of the time, that's what the system does, to make you believe it is you. There's something wrong with me, but it isn't. And then you keep building yourself. And really, you get to a place, but that is a place of for activism, you don't give a damn anymore. You just have to do what you have to do, and people can make the views. But it is a journey that you have to grow, and the education and the network is the most powerful, because once you have people around you, then it just builds you. But it's tough, but you just have to go through that to build.
Yeah, and you do it so well. I have memories of calls with Seda where I'm just like, I don't understand how you're playing this. This is chess. This is literally a game of chess where I make a move, but they're playing checkers.
Yes.
And I'm there questioning, did I do the right thing? And then Seda will be like, no, it's them. They've done this 5 years now. Get over it. On to the next thing. Izzy, any tips on working with microaggressions and working through the sector?
I don't mean to make this the Sado fan club, but I do have to say that having also watched Sado kind of in action twice, delivering presentations on the work that she's doing and how she's interacted with stakeholders, you know, I try to find mentors as much as possible in my work by just watching what people do, watching what people share on social media, even if they're not directly involved with me. And you are definitely such an inspirational role model. So keep going. So we're watching. In terms of microaggressions, it's, you know what, I feel like so often in the work that I've done, I've been in situations in which people have assumed I'm either not working in the role that I'm working in, or assume that they can treat me or talk to me in a certain way because I'm quite young. And I found that not just with people who are outside of our community, but people of all kinds. One thing I would say is that I actually find it really, you know, there's something happens that's fantastic when people underestimate what you're capable of and you can show them what you are capable of. So there have been numerous times where people have heard of Founder Vine, for example, and they meet me and ask me if it's the company I work for. It's fantastic. I love it. You think we're bigger than we are, but I'm like, yeah, I work for this organization. I should change my business card or something. And it's those things that I try to see as, you know, a microaggression and saying, you know, you must not be the person, you know, that you are, but more as a symbol that people still, for various reasons, underestimate women of color, people of color, and it's within our gift now to create opportunities to buck that trend and show what everyone is capable of with the right support. And I meet so many brilliant, you know, young women in particular, women that I coach, entrepreneurs that I coach, and I spend so much time talking about the fact that, like you said, Joy, about that kind of confidence, going in with the confidence of how did you frame it? I think you said
mediocre white man, mediocre. Yeah.
Everyone's making it up. Everyone's making it up, from the CEO of Goldman Sachs right through to you know, the manager sitting across from you on the table who thinks they know more than you. Everyone is making it up, and it's so important that we recognize that you know, everything is just smoke and mirrors. And if we are confident, if we are capable, if you're running a business that has genuine impact, your work speaks for itself. And you should never feel like you know, someone is more important than you or better than you. If they're underestimating you, then more for them.
Good. Like, just, you know, we're just going to succeed. Fuck it. Sorry, I shouldn't. Ooh, that slipped out. I already said mediocre white man. I was like, I'm on a roll. So let's look at the actual business side of things. This program, Back Her Business, is going to be helping Black and brown entrepreneurs, women, start businesses, grow businesses, and really get themselves out there, because we can do every freaking thing. What like tips or advice from your experiences, either working with business or running your own, would you give to entrepreneurs wanting to grow? During COVID or before COVID, what was the things that you saw was successful in growing? Let's go with Shamia.
I think just having really clear aims about where you want to get to, almost, I guess, sort of thinking about where is it you want to be and almost working your plan backwards. No plan is ever going to go, I guess, 100% right, but if you at least have a plan, you know what steps that you can take, and sometimes when you're on that journey and taking those steps, other opportunities open up. So I think for me, it's just really thinking about how do I get to where I get to, and plotting those steps really well to be able to to get to the growth stage, but also utilising, learning from other people who've been there before you and what it was that they did. Each business is individual and different, but other people can definitely give you like the best advice or tips for success that helps them as they were along on their journey.
Yeah, is learning from other people's mistakes and learning. One of the key things that someone said to me jokingly, and I realized it was true, is that most successful entrepreneurs or business owners have failed at least twice, but they just don't talk about it. So something I do now, if I think someone's like in my industry and they're doing well, I go on Companies House and I look up what other companies they've had that haven't been successful, and I feel better. It's a petty thing, but you know, it makes me realize, you know what, they've had 2 times to try, and this is their 3rd attempt. So that's a quick tip.
And sometimes out of those mistakes, that's what helped people solve a problem that they didn't realize there was in the world as well. So there's no such thing as a bad mistake. It's just a learning opportunity.
Definitely. And Navia, what has helped you grow? You've mentioned the different pivots. What have you implemented in the business to make those grow and succeed?
For me, it's about the business really being, it's like a tech phrase, agile. So really concentrating on lowering overheads and costs. And I actually haven't had to put anyone on furlough because I stopped putting people on payroll a couple of years ago when we lost our kitchen. And I've just built, again, it's about the networks. It's about working with people who want flexible work. And my guys who come and do events with me, they come back time and time again because we work really well together. They know they're going to get paid well. We run a slick operation. It's fun. They great food. So it's about not thinking about the short-term goals, but really thinking about your long-term aim and who can you partner with, who can you work with, who has got a similar kind of idea. And I think now, post-COVID, it's really about negotiating hard because there are a lot of opportunities out there. And I think the old way of doing things is crumbling like before our very eyes. And the old power structures are crumbling. And now is the time that we can go in and we can ask for what we want, and we can be quite confident about that. And you know, people might be desperate. They might be willing to talk to you where they might not have done before. So you just got to step up and try your best.
Yeah, and taking those opportunities. Every conversation is an opportunity. Yeah, definitely. We're going to be wrapping up shortly. So if you have any questions that you want to ask any of the panelists, including Sado, drop them in the chat and we'll try and answer these questions as soon as possible. Izzy, I know with Foundervine, everything that's happened, you guys have seen huge kind of people outreaching, wanting to work with you. What would you say helped support that, and how have you been able to manage that growth?
Yeah, so it's been a really interesting journey for us in that we're now leaning into a conversation that others are already having, as opposed to trying to convince them of the value of engaging with us. And this is a very, very new space to be in, I think, for organizations of all kinds, you know, particularly who work in our space. And our clients are local government, corporates and educational institutions. And so, you know, very kind of like old establishment kind of organizations who, you know, take a million years to make very small changes and sign off budgets. And now it feels like the conversation has accelerated in terms of how they can be supporting employees internally to be more aware of the issues and support their development into positions of power, leadership, and also how they can support the communities around them to be more effective. And what's fantastic to see is a genuine commitment towards you know, getting people from communities who are very, very underrepresented in some of the organizations we're working in, and not just committing to a flash in the pan initiative, you know, for example, having people in for an evening session and getting their lawyers to talk and everyone feels good about themselves. No, so long-term, multi-year or multi-month projects that really allow them to engage. And so, long story short, the conversation has changed, and it's within our gifts now as organizations of all kinds to really, really lean into it and to demand what you're worth. You know, really, really quickly, say there was a program that we sold for literally a tenth of what we're selling it for just 12 months later, based on the difference in the kind of power we feel in terms of going into these environments and, you know, saying a number and not feeling awkward or weird about it, and then they don't flinch and you're a bit like, okay, so we could have been here before. And so I think more of us leaning into you know, the space, leaning into our confidence and making sure that we are owning these conversations and approaching potential clients and partners on a adult to adult relationship rather than a parent to child relationship, which I think a lot of us go into it with if we are smaller organizations.
Mm-hmm. Seda, would you say that's something you've seen happening with BSWN as well? Conversations that you were pushing for all of a sudden and budgets being opened?
It's a really interesting one. Absolutely agree. But I think for BSWN, we've been around for the last 10 years, 15 actually. And then last 10 years ago, we lost funding, which was quite an interesting thing, but the most empowering thing. Because from that space, we started rebuilding the organization around our purpose. And I think early on through that process of rebuilding, one of the things that I learned is around value. And you have to value what it is that you do and the knowledge that you bring to the table. And even before COVID, we were on that path because it's exactly what Izzy has said. You're building this relationship. It's so in balance for so long for Black-led organizations or businesses. You're almost to be invited into a space is the biggest deal. Forget about asking for the resources. You should be ever so grateful because you've been included, because you've been invited, nothing else. That's all. So to even start to ask for resources, it's non-existent for us. And I think I learned that. The question is around, what am I gaining out of being in that space? Not a big deal because there's nothing anyway. So learning to say no and learning to ask people about money, it's the most important thing. And when we started to do that a couple of years ago, people were really shocked that you're asking directly about money. Is there a budget? I'm not doing it for free because it's expertise and knowledge. Totally. And I think they found that really hard. And in some places to even say, well, I'm not interested because there's nothing. It's quite extractive. So post BLM, it's completely a different ballgame, and especially in the space that I work in the grant making, they're having a crazy meltdown where everybody's trying to push out money. But now the question is, do I want to take that money? And I think that is the different thing, because I see lots and lots of resources. And I see this with organizations and say to people, don't just jump and take money, because sometimes it's a trap in itself. If it's not the right thing, if you don't have the right infrastructure with your organization, then the thing that you'll do is it's a tick box for them, and quickly people are trying to push out money. So there's a whole process that we have to go through, understand our what, but also not to be caught up in what I find right now to be some madness. So just knowing for organizations who built their infrastructure, then it's the right time to strike and to negotiate. But for other organizations coming along, is not to be caught to that, because you can easily fail too.
That is so true. So I'm trying to multitask and I'm clearly failing because I was reading that as I was answering. One, before we go and start wrapping up, one good question. Someone has asked, where was it? Has anyone managed to grow or scale without bringing in an investor? And I think, Navia, that would be a really good question for you to answer, because you said you seeked investment early on, right? Ooh, have we got your sound?
Hello, can you hear me? Sorry, I had a call that came through. Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you now.
Perfect. Yeah, so I originally tried to get friends and family funding round going. That was difficult because I think the Asian community, the Indian community, are quite risk averse, and certainly as a woman, they didn't feel confident investing in me, so that wasn't a goer. And then I did take out personal debt, and then further. Now I feel that was, you know, I feel comfortable with that now. However, you know, I definitely would have been able to get money with less interest payable. But I think Seda was talking about really being focused on what you do before you start pitching for money, because organizations 100% have boxes to tick. And now more so than ever. And actually, if an organization is trying to get you to take the risk, then that's not a fair conversation to be having, because actually people who are more privileged, who have got access to networks where they, you know, it's easier for them to set up businesses, maybe their families are very competent, they have access to sort of traditional business loans, they wouldn't be putting their own money in. They would be putting in square equity, they would be putting in hard work, they would be putting in the time, but they wouldn't be putting the money in as well. And that was a mistake that I made. And it's a mistake that I'm comfortable with now, because, you know, the way that my business is structured, I've got a limited company. So that money is actually sitting in the director's loan account. But, you know, that has its own restrictions as well. So I think people need to be very careful.
Yeah, that's. Go on, Izzy.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if I can just add to that, because I think it was Kat who asked a question in the chat, and one of my questions was, is it a tech company? Is it high? I should have said burn rather than churn, but it very much depends on the type of company, and having these conversations without context can be very misleading for early stage funders, because some businesses are much better suited to debt finance, some are much better suited to equity finance, and the vast majority should grow by bootstrapping and shouldn't take external funding and put themselves in a risky position. So I'm a huge advocate of going as far as you can with no external funding. You therefore have control. You're not spending all of your time fundraising, and you can invest in what's truly important, and that's customer acquisition. And so if you need funding because your business burns money at a really high rate, it's a company that's growing really fast, fantastic, seek it. I'd say the vast majority of companies don't, and therefore grow as much as you can with the resources that you have through selling work and getting revenue in.
Yeah, that's so true in terms of, one, people don't tend to start with their own money, and two, it needs context. I'm going to start wrapping up now. What I'm going to ask of the panelists, Seda, and even myself, is to share where people can find you on social media, obviously, to get in touch with you, and one positive thing that's happened to you recently. Could be business related, could be personal related, but I want to end on a happy note. So I'm going to start with Shamia.
So you can find me on LinkedIn. My name is on the screen, so you can take a screenshot, spelled exactly like that, on LinkedIn. On Twitter, I'm @F and then my underscore and my first name, Shania. And a positive thing that's happened to me recently. I'm going to talk about a personal thing. It's not a major thing, but going through lockdown has been tricky for everybody. But for me, it's been particularly tricky just because I live on my own, and that's been quite a different dynamic. So a positive thing that happened is, with the world opening up again, just being able to spend time with family. And so for me, I think spending time with the people, whether they be family, friends, business partners, but spending time with the people who make you feel good and give you joy is something for me that's just really positive, whoever you are.
It's beautiful. Oh, people, yay. And Nivea, share where people can find you and a positive thing that's happened to you recently.
So people can find me on LinkedIn. I've got my personal LinkedIn profile. We're Coconut Chili's on Facebook at Coconut Chili. We're on Instagram and on Twitter. And the most positive thing that's happened post-COVID is I managed to pivot my business without spending a single penny, because I had existing stock that wasn't wasted. Food is obviously perishable. I was able to donate spices, ingredients to a couple of charities, so Square Food Foundation and the Bristol Food Union, which was really important for me rather than just for it to go to waste. And I am in Bristol more, so I'm not spending my time driving up to London and the southeast. So that's been really great because I've managed to spend time with my family. And I've just been working a few days a week rather than, well, I've been working all days, but just doing 4 days worth of takeaway and deliveries. And we deliver our gourmet curries all over Bristol now. And again, partnership. So we've been partnering with V-Cars, who are a local taxi firm, and all of the delivery money goes to the taxi driver, because of course they're self-employed as well. So it's really about sharing everything. And Bristol, I think, is a great place to do that.
That is such a beautiful ecosystem. So everyone know what they're having for dinner tonight, right? Izzy, where can people find you, and one positive thing has happened recently?
So people can find me at Izzy Obeng, same as it is on the screen, on any social media platform, and Foundervine, which is FOUNDERVINE, on any social media platform as well. I'm also very open to sort of having conversations around stages of growth and funding. I'm Izzy at foundervine.com if anyone is interested. Oh, nice thing that happened. I got back from holiday last week where my husband went surfing, which was really nice. And on Monday, completely forgot about it because of all the work. So at least I went on holiday, which is the most important thing.
Sweet. And before I hand over to Seda, I'm just going to say, everyone can find me at Joyanne Boyce on all platforms or at The Social Detail. I saw someone mention wanting help with their websites. I don't do websites because they're the bane of my life, but I have a really extensive network that can help you with that. In the agency, we cover things around social media marketing, planning, and inclusive marketing training. So feel free to message me. I'm always happy to have a chat, but if I need to do anything, you have to pay me. But no, it's been really amazing talking to the panel. I'm so excited to see what Back Her Business is going to do and how us as Black and Asian entrepreneurs and women are going to achieve so many amazing things. A good thing that's happened to me recently, I think everyone get the vibe that I like being paid. So I got paid double. Just going to put that out there, and I'm going to continue doubling until someone says no. But I took a day off. I took a whole day and watched a whole series of Netflix. There's a new anime called Japan Sinks 2020. Took a whole day and it was just beautiful. I'm probably not going to sleep for the whole week, but still. But thank you everyone for tuning in. I'm going to hand off to Sado to say bits about BSWN and Back Her Business and where everyone can find everything.
Thank you, Joanne, for brilliant facilitation. Thank you to all the panelists. I think Izzy has dropped out. I'm just going to say thank you so much. That's a wonderful, wonderful discussion. Also, thank you to NatWest for making this possible. Really, really excited about the program and what it can achieve. Looking forward to engaging with you. Thank you for giving up your time and being part of this. If you need further information, please go to BSWN's website. And we will also email everybody that has participated with information about the program. So if you're interested, you can sign up. But most importantly, is just building a community of female, Black and Asian female entrepreneurs. So looking forward to engaging with you. And you can sign up to our newsletter. But just to say thank you again, super exciting, great conversation, and very, very happy. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.